Hello, everyone. This is Jim Ogrozinski with your weekly lecture video. So this week we'll be talking about discourse communities. I've had a very robust discussion in my virtual class meetings with my other 1102 students. So I thought I would share some of our discussions, some of their thinking about the alternative definitions and what that might mean for everyone in our conversation about discourse communities moving forward. Okay, so just a reminder that the colleges or the English department's course objectives listed in the syllabus state: analyze a rhetorical situation within a discourse community, identify an issue relevant to a discourse community, a research question, a research plan, and digital and or print media genres in which to present research findings to an audience. So in essence, we're tasked in order to meet this objective to discovering a discourse community and looking at rhetorical situations within that discourse community, and something that is researchable, something that we can present and possibly roll over into the research paper. Once again, the idea of coming up with and talking about, I should say, a discourse community is to develop a relevant topic for research that you can situate yourselves into, other than just writing on some sort of a generic topic. So remember now, in the course unit, in Swales' definition is that a discourse community is a group of people who share a set of discourses understood as basic values and assumptions and ways of communicating about their goals. So Swales define discourse communities as groups that have goals and purposes and use communication to achieve those goals. So we have several different kind of definitions that came out throughout our, well, I should say they were an outcome of our conversations. One was from Purdue, where they talked about more so speech communities, which are really linked to the idea of a discourse community. And here it is here it's pointed out that there's a difference, right? So used in speech community to emphasize that individual language is used to embed it in social relations and is regulated by conventions specific to particular groups or communities. However, it is often distinguished from speech communities on the grounds that speech communities are sociolinguistic groupings with communicative needs such as socialization and group solidarity, whereas discourse communities are groupings based on common interests. There are unspoken rules and beliefs that each member of the discourse community understand and follow. Here's the links if you want to, go into greater detail on this particular notion of a discourse community. So the common forms of discourse were newspaper articles, scholarly journal, speech, radio, TV, published report, or even a poem, right? So Swales does talk about a set of criteria. He has his set, I should say, of 6 criteria: common public goals, intercommunication, provide information and feedback, one or more genres, and a communicative furtherance of its aims. In addition to owning genres, it has acquired some specific lexis, which means a specific language that's used, a specific lexicon. And then the members with a suitable degree of relevant content and discoursal expertise. So there has to be some sort of authority in that group, right? So Swales provides some examples. You can find those in the course unit. So I'm going to go through some of the discussion board posts that I thought were relatively interesting, some different alternatives. Ethan, from one of my virtual classes, suggested a discourse community should include the following criteria. Again, you have the common public goals, certain values and beliefs, the threshold, a level of members with a suitable degree of expertise, and as relevant to the community and communicates information and feedback. It all looks like Swales' basic criteria, or what we were talking about earlier, right? In support with this idea, lumenlearning.com includes a definition of a discourse community that was originally provided by Ann Buford. Some of you have pulled up Buford's work. She states that a discourse community is a social group that communicates, at least in part, via written texts and shares common goals, values, and writing standards, a specialized vocabulary, and specialized genres. So Her definition takes it just a step further. So Ethan further goes on here to talk about a social network built from participants who share some set of communicative purposes. They share an interest in certain topics and share knowledge about that topic. So it's a little bit looser, more liberal type of a definition there. Ethan goes on to say that, the first definition provided by Buford suggests that in order to have a discourse community, one must express a special vocabulary and specific values. There seems to be a push for ultimate unification that is not found in the second, right? As for the second definition, there seems to be a push for community that shares general sense of a certain idea. So these common elements are kind of broad throughout the alternative definitions that I have come up with here through the students doing their research. Also, then you have Yesenia from my one of my virtual classes brings up Bartholomew and defining what a discourse is. If we were to take apart discourse and communities, I think that's a way to look at it too. So a discourse is a particular way of knowing, selecting, evaluating, reporting, concluding, and arguing. That's a discourse. The word discourse is defined differently compared to Swale's definition. So Swales is kind of looping in his discourse and the community into one definition, while I think it's worthwhile here to note that maybe if you break it out in two parts, discourse and the community, to look at the differences for each. While we were in our breakout class, I shared a book called College Writing and Beyond. Here's Buford's again. She defined discourse community as a social group here that communicates at least in part via written text and shares common goals, values, and writing standards. Once again, the specialized vocabulary and specialized genres. So in breaking apart, there's different interpretations of not only what discourse is, but also what a community is, right? So Rachel Jones's definition is a group whose members share common values and assumptions, as well as common ways of communicating about shared goals. She simplified Swales' definition and made it simpler and easier to understand. Once that Swales was just a little bit too much and rich with information, so anyone can understand that particular version there. So Brittany, who is from your particular class, came up with an interesting take on it from Will Ogles, put it as bluntly as to say discourse communities are a group of like-minded people who get together, do stuff together. Okay, it's as simple as that. So there's not some overthinking of it. And then she goes on to talk about discourse communities. Have an interesting concept here where she says it's a micro communities, and these communities have existed since the beginning of time. Okay, so it could be a long-standing community. It could be anything in a way of some sort of a community, a cluster of homes. Every sub-community is part of a larger community, so we have groups, subgroups. Okay, so it's important to break it down that a community can mean a wide variety of groups of people, right? So Mika broke it out for genre across borders. The discourse communities will have a unique vocabulary or jargon and a power structure tied to the source of the community. Most groups do have some sort of a hierarchy. And also Porter was another one, a source of a discourse community definition. It came up quite often. His definition of discourse communities, he stated a textual system with stated and non-stated conventions. Okay, wielding power, institutional hierarchies, vested interests, and so on. So it's a wide variety of interpretations for the discourse communities. So Dominic also came up with some interesting thoughts. There's a group of people involved in and communicating about a particular topic, issue, or in a particular field, right? So whatever grouping you can figure out in some ways, all right, has a way of communicating certain genres, the hierarchy, anything that goes into the social structure. So you may want to think about breaking it out as a discourse in a community to help it break apart your understanding of the discourse community. Let's see if I can get out of this. All righty, I can't. Here we go. Get out of that. So just to get to the discussion board here, I just wanted to point out, take some time to review sections of his article. Look at Swale's article. He talks of three types of communities in academia: local, focal. He talks about occupational, vocational, recreational types of discourse communities. So the idea here is, is for you to think about possible discourse community in your life and how that community might conform to the criteria. And that's the 6 points of criteria that Swales mentioned, and that is posted not only in his article, but also in the course unit in Blackboard. So explain to the class how and why your discourse community using the real life example. So I want you to start breaking it down. Now that we've gone through a definition, you're looking at Swales' article. Think about how you are involved in a discourse community in your life and see how your discourse community fits the definition, and more so than that, meets the criteria, those 6 criteria that Swales talks about in his article and right here in the course unit. All right. So if you have any questions about discussion board number 3, let me know. And then we'll carry on this conversation going into next week, where I will talk about discussion board number 4 and then ultimately the discourse narrative essay assignment. All right. Yeah. So if you have any questions, once again, please send me an email. Good luck. Stay safe out there. Stay warm.